Um, yeah, I think I've done enough chit chatting. I do want to walk you through these examples because I think it's important to be able to see it for yourselves and understand, just to demystify essentially what all of this is. So I'll share my screen and then walk you through this process that I went through. I have way too many screens open. Yes, I do. Do not judge me for it because it's not my fault. It's just how my brain works. Okay, so the client, who I mentioned was my mother, is my mother. She has opened an adult day center in the Prince William County area for individuals with autism and other neurodivergent needs. So, the first thing that I did, you can see here, is start to brainstorm on a whiteboard. Now, I don't have a physical whiteboard, which I still prefer, but I do have a virtual whiteboard. Shout out to Microsoft for that. And so, this was really quick. Um, it can be much more detailed than this. Maybe someday I'll show you the like original Rialto user flows, and the number of user flows we had. But for this, it was pretty quick. It's essentially 3 steps. And notice that because I was talking to her on the phone for about like 10 minutes as I was doing this, just to make sure I understand the user journey. This is the user experience for a potential client. So the first thing she mentioned was they should be able to make inquiries. So to be able to show interest in having their loved one attend the center. So step one, great. And those inquiries should go to their general email box. Lovely. And then the next step for them is scheduling a tour. However, for me, that felt more than MVP, right? Could I have taken the time to, in the platform, give them a way to respond to inquiries, send emails, schedule a tour? Yes, potential. Yes, I could have. But that would have taken more effort and more time. And quite frankly, given their demographic, they're more comfortable with reaching out via email or reaching out via phone, doing that offline, and then coming back to the platform. Fine. So she specified that she had 2 different forms already that she was using, PDF files. And so I made note of what those forms were and um, the fact that they were the inquiry, like they made up the inquiry form. And then the next step was set up a tour. The setup of the tour piece was offline. But then the next piece that they wanted was after the tour was set up, if the client wanted to move forward, then an application form needed to be sent. But that one has sensitive data and sensitive information, so it needs to be sent through like an encrypted private link, and cannot be posted publicly to the website. So then the client will fill out the form, and then everything else basically happens offline. They'll go to the center, they'll finish. There's other forms that need to be filled out, but their preference was that it's done on paper and not electronically. Hey, that's their business, not my own. And so this is essentially the full user's journey. They Once they get the form, they set up a date, and then they move forward from there. The website has done its job. So as you can see, not super complicated for this kind of website. This is the document that I then created after having this conversation. I said, okay, now it's time to, oh, I already have it open. I'm just kidding. Now it's time to what we need to do. So some of the things that I knew content-wise Lovable would ask for, I just preemptively put it into this document. One piece is all of the contact information, like the official contact information. So I wanted to make sure that it had what it needed for that. I knew what I wanted to be on the about page. If I hadn't put anything, Lovable probably would have generated, like, put a story up or asked me more details to be able to fill out that page. But I knew exactly what I wanted it to, like the kind of story I wanted to tell. This I did in ChatGPT. It helped me flesh it out. And so we have the about page, and then they had done a photo shoot honestly, I think it was like a year ago. And so I wanted to make sure that we used some of those pictures from the photo shoot. So I picked one of them. And then the gallery feature that I mentioned earlier that ChatGPT reminded me of, I picked a few more to put into the gallery. I wanted to provide comparables. So other organizations that are doing similar things in the Northern Virginia area, just so that Lovable had a couple of verified organizations to be able to compare to. And then I wrote down some key functionality. Now, if this was a PRD that I was writing and giving to human developers, this would not be nearly enough. There's way too much room for interpretation, misinterpretation, and all of that. But Lovable does a pretty good job of staying as close to true north as possible. So the first thing that I described is this website is primarily informational. My mom has a document that she's used to talk about the center for a while. And so, luckily for me, I didn't need to gather this information and collect it or put it into the Lovable document. I just told Lovable to refer to it. I literally uploaded this brochure into Lovable along with this document as well. And so I said essentially refer to this brochure. That's the information that needs to be displayed on this website in an easy to digest and user friendly way because that brochure isn't quite. Then you want to give prospective clients the ability to submit inquiries managed by the GF admin, the Gregory and Friends address. They should be able to respond to inquiries by mail. So basically, once an inquiry is submitted, they should be able to respond by mail to that inquiry. And then those two documents that I had mentioned from the whiteboard exercise, I also uploaded those and said, use those files for the foundation of the inquiry form. Essentially, both of the files had a lot of the same fields. And so I just wanted Lovable to take all of the unique fields, put that together into one inquiry form. And then I wanted to specify what was out of scope. So I mentioned prospective clients that have submitted inquiries. The team will reach out to them. They'll schedule a tour. All of that's handled offline. And then afterwards, the team should be able to send a private file for the client to complete. And this private file is that application form that I mentioned. And I said that it needs to be sent through DocuSign or something similar, just to ensure that it understands the level of privacy, encryption, data security that particular file requires. And then I also mentioned that it must be HIPAA compliant. And then the last thing here I mentioned with branding, the client, the brochure that I showed you has a very specific brand that she wanted to use already. Wanted to keep the logo, wanted to keep the colors. And so I just wanted to relay that to Lovable. So making sure that they use the brand of Gregory, the brochure, the color scheme, all of that, wanted to continue to use that. So I mentioned color scheme, the fonts, and then I mentioned the pictures that were taken during their photo shoot about a year ago. So I took all of that, like I mentioned, took it to ChatGPT. While it flushed out all of the extra stuff that I may not have included in this document, what it also did was give me the exact prompt that I needed to copy and paste into Lovable. So took that prompt, downloaded this document as a PDF, included this brochure, as well as the three other forms, the application form, the intake form, and the other intake form, basically. Added that as an attachment, and then let Lovable do its thing.